We are back. Just in case you joined us, this is KBC News Check. We are looking at the state of politics and the nation at large. And just before we had that quick break, we were looking at the contentious Supreme Court decision on LGBTQs. If you do not know, they did rule that these groups have a right of association, meaning that the NGO, the National and the Non-Governmental Organization Board, have a right to register them, and of course they can now actualize their agenda as an association according to that Supreme decision. And let me now bring in Wakili Gibson Gisore, and we were looking at what are some of the remedies. Mheshimiwa will be telling us what they could do, because it's something that has also touched on Parliament. But the clergy has talked about petitioning the AG. Do we have to go all that route? And can the Supreme Court maybe have another decision or review their decision? They are not bound by any laws, right?
Yeah. So what is going to happen is this, or this is the way out. Huh? First, the decision was about the NGOs board, because it was not purely on the aspect of homosexuality. It's just exercising the right of association, where these guys, the gay people, had gone to register the organization back in 2013. It's way back. So these are something which has been in the process up to now. So what the Supreme Court essentially said, that the NGOs board is a government organization, and it has a right to listen to everyone and be able to give them a decision according to the law. What had happened essentially was these guys had applied, and then they were told, no, you cannot register. They went to court. When they went to court, the decisions have been coming and going back and forth, and then we are at this place whereby we are now looking at the circumstances. Do we limit the rights of people to associate while we have an enabling constitution? So the judges, three of them said, we should not, because tomorrow somebody else is going to be told that. Well, it's because it's the aspect of discrimination, because they were saying we're being discriminated upon because why are we not being registered? Well, there is an option of us being registered, and even the NGOs board never gave them a second chance to present their case. They were told, no, that one, no, you're not doing that. No, you go. So they said, why are we being discriminated upon? So the Supreme Court was actually trying to determine whether is this discrimination or not. Now, among other things, what the Supreme Court looked at or found is the fact that these people were never given a chance to be told why they cannot be registered. They also actually went and corrected, or actually cautioned the NGOs board to have an appeals tribunal or an appeals board, which once you have denied somebody an opportunity to register, he can actually appeal and present his case. So these people were never given that chance. So those are some of the things which were actually being deliberated at the Supreme Court. So it was not per se, as people are already perceiving that, you know, the Supreme Court has gone ahead and opened the Pandora's box for these people to just start running amok. That was the decision which was before the Supreme Court, which they said, I mean, these people were told that they cannot register, but they were never given an opportunity to be explained to, or be given an opportunity to appeal the decision so that they are successfully processed. That, you know, yours, the law says 1, 2, 3, and cannot allow them, cannot allow to register. That's why I think I want to commend MP Kaluma for Homa Bay Town, who has since seen this mistake and gone ahead, being that it's members of parliament who slept during the constitution making process, is trying to remedy the mistake of the former colleagues and come up with a bill which now clearly puts things in the square and tells them that, you know, even if the NGOs board decides to not register them, they will be having an anchor in law where they can be basing their decision on, which does not exist per se. Clearly, because the only other thing is under the penal code, which of course is not very articulate. And you remember, the LGBTQ is an area of organizations. So homosexuality is just one of the sects under that. There are people who are heterosexual. There are people who are queer. There are people who essentially our law does not discriminate upon. So if they went under the LGBTQ, if you look at that from a wholesome perspective, if you limit it, while it's only the homosexuals who act which is being prohibited, you will be locking all these people out. So that is the kind of decision which the Supreme Court had to make a decision on. So they said, I mean, at least on the very basis of good governance, have some internal processes, how you can be able to process these people, so that even if they end up in court now, it will be a very clear process, which now I think we're trying to amend with the Kaluma's motion, with Kaluma's bill, which is going, if it's actually help the members of parliament, we'll be able to pass it, quickly before the Supreme Court actually somebody prefers as an opinion, we get the review, or if somebody at the AG wants to go back and seek an appeal on the same, before we do that, the bill should actually be in place, the act should be in place. Once it's in place, then now we will have decided as a people through parliament, where the elected members to represent the Kenyan people, to be very sure and make a strong statement that this is not the way we want to go. We have ratified this act, the president has signed, so now this matter is settled. We cannot be able to register you because of 1, 2, 3. And
Mheshimiwa, I would like you to weigh in on that, because as Wakili has said, MPs slept on their job. Now they have the opportunity to wake up and set the record straight.
That one I agree. During that time, it was 2010.
Around 2008.
I cannot
2008, 2009.
That's during the making process was in place.
Yes.
But I want to agree that we cannot allow such to happen again. The only way, because that was Supreme Court, is to amend it in Parliament. And I want to, immediately I'm out of this, we are having this in the afternoon, I want to go and meet Kaluma and see how the steps of amending that article where he is here at the moment. Because you should, I'm sure, once that thing is in the Parliament, every member of Parliament should support that amendment, that we should now criminalize such events in our country. We are not supposed to allow, actually they are not supposed to have any platform again in this country. That means now, I'm sure, once it's in Parliament, everybody will support it. I don't think that a member of Parliament will think of such, like a judge who made the ruling the other day. To me, I support Kaluma and I'm behind him, and we should make that, we should amend this article to have a leeway that in our country we promote Christianity, we promote our culture that can't allow such events to happen in our country.
Indeed.
As Mheshimiwas and the rest of the people who are tasked with the amendment continue their work, I just want to ask Wakili one question. Where do we draw actually the line when we say certain issues are discriminatory and certain issues are not? For example, if I register a terrorist organization,
then I go complain,
and I go and you deny me the registration, the NGO board denies me registration, I go to Supreme Court, I go to the courts. Of course, I don't start with Supreme Court. Will I be told that I have been, I get a ruling in favor of my decision
That's wrong.
as discriminatory? Or there are some things actually we need to reason out very critically before we open out to make a decision within the corridors of justice? I think it's Wakili who should give us. Is that option available for the law?
Yeah, because it's a good thing that he has identified that, because they were also arguing that now are you telling us that thieves now, because well, it is illegal to steal in Kenya, but you're saying that we do not want to discriminate thieves. They can have their small cocoons, their small associations, Thieves Association of Kenya or something, because that is more or less what happened, because homosexuality, according to the law and the penal code, is clear that it is criminal in the country. Maybe Wakili, you can have the last word on that before we go for the Irene Masit
and again, before he gives us a bite on that, I want also to respond that is that now clause bound or makes them to be slaves of judgment? They cannot be conscious in terms of making decisions.
Yes.
Okay, you have the final one.
I think I will also, before I go to that, I would like to also bring to your attention that you know, even if you're accusing the Western world of supporting this, just recently the European Union, out of 48 judges who sat in that European Union court, they decided unanimously that homosexuality is not a right. So I wonder how how that is going to be, how even the people who are the purveyors, the people who claim that this is their way of life, if they have the highest court has actually pronounced itself and said that this is not a human right, it's not something which should be coded in law as a human right. So that is a very resounding statement. That's a very resounding statement, which is actually a reprieve to us. I hope the AG will be able to use that if he is going to appeal that wisdom, because that I've read that judgment and I've realized this thing has been a hoax all through. These people have been promoting this, we are accusing the West. It's only some few sects of the people who want to have their cake and eat it and be able to push down things down our throat, which we are not supposed to be able to take. So we need to stand strong, because there are options, there are grounds under which we can say that this is not our way of life. Our constitution, much as it's enabling, does not act in a vacuum. It's supposed to be supported by morals of our people.
And why is it that the Court of Appeal did the same thing? Now we are the Supreme Court, because if it is in the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal also did give an okay. It was another 3-2 judges as well.
Yes, that is the challenge we are facing, because it depends where somebody is coming from. The way I read the Constitution and the way you read the Constitution, much as we are all lawyers and all trained, we could be able to have different persuasions. All right. And as I've explained earlier, the decision of the Supreme Court was not per se on homosexuality. It was about issues of governance in terms of the NGOs board, how they ended up not giving these people a chance to explain to them why they cannot be able to register them. That is why. But now people are reading it widely from the context that if we let this one lie, which is of course true, we are going now to, it's kind of actualizing the aspect that we have decriminalized, because there is also another in the Court of Appeal about decriminalization of homosexuality. So if you read these things in between the lines, it's good people start being apprehensive from the word go, because at least Kenyans are woke. They are saying, no, we cannot start allowing and going down.
And that is why
road.
we are saying that Parliament has a huge role to play to set the record straight.
Parliament should be able to move with speed and be able to put us in a clear context whereby we are very clear that that is not something we recognize. It's not strange. Uganda has a very enabling constitution. The Ugandan constitution and the Kenyan constitution are almost the same. Actually, some of the chapters are just different. You find this is 49 and the other one is 53. But Uganda, because of the kind of leadership they have and their tradition, the president has been very clear. Show me an homosexual person who is going to give birth, and then I will allow it.
Yeah,
actually, we should not have any gray areas on immorality. Immorality should be.
And there is a bill, actually, it has been, that's what Kaluma is actually trying to borrow from Uganda, that they have it as an illegal. If you are caught, you are arrested and you are imprisoned for life. So if we can make us bold statements like Uganda has done, then we will be in a better place. But then you also realize that 5 countries in Africa have already legalized, starting from South Africa, going to the Congo. I think it's one of the Western African countries and some other 2 other countries. So this is something which we also look at it broadly, but in the context of the European Union decision, I don't think we have a laxity to start looking at that from a perspective that this is not what we profess as a people.
Actually, gentlemen, let's put a rest on that matter, because I'm quite sure it's going to have a lot of discussion. But just to point out that Deputy Chief Justice Philomena Mwilu, Justice Njoki Ndung'u and Smoky Wanjala are the ones who ruled in the affirmative, while Justice Mohammed Ibrahim and also Justice William Ouko ruled to dissent, saying that they should not be allowed. But as you have seen, the clergy, the MPs, the opinion leaders, and even Kenyans have an issue with that. So Parliament and the Apex Court have a cardinal duty to set the record straight. And away from that, I will begin with you, Daktari. Yesterday as well, we saw that the Justice Aggrey Muchelule-led commission said that Irene Masit is not fit to be a commissioner at the IEBC, which is sets the stage for her exit. Of course, she has indicated that she could appeal at the Apex Court, but more or less her fate is sealed, just like we saw in the other commissioners as well. Question is this the first time that we could be having a clean, lean, and opportunity to have a clean IEBC, despite the fact that Azimio leader has talked about, no, we do not want the way the selection panel was arrived at. Dr.
It's good that Masit has fought her battle. However, as we mentioned the other time when we were talking about the tribunal, the connection between an employer and an employee is the code of conduct. You violate a code of conduct, you will not be, you will not be in the same hand with your employer because you have violated the engagement between you two. And the same thing, or the same principles were used by Agrem Chelule's tribunal, because if you have gone against the basic principle of engagement, then the bottom line is that the decision is always that you are the one who will always be fired because you are the one who is employed. And I guess she has all the right to go and appeal. As again, our constitution gives us the opportunity to explore all corridors until the last. And again, we even have an international one or the regional one that you can always go and present your case. So these are things that are already in place, and we cannot deny any person in this country to exercise that right. Having said that, if they have found that there was malpractice in the whole process as a result of electioneering duty, then the decision they made is very clear. Therefore, that will be an individual person trying to find his own way to see whether there will be luck ahead of him, like the way the appeal court denied the LGBTs their registration, but Supreme Court opened some a bit of light for them. So opportunities are ahead there, but how it will unveil, God knows. In terms of whether we will going to have a clean now team to oversee our elections, I think we have never had a bad team. The bad team are the politicians who want this team, who want to misuse this team in their favor whenever election time comes. So Kenyans who are qualified are always given the job. So at this point in time, when we are when appointment for the 6 commissioners and the chair is being done, they go in there as a clean people. But once they execute the first election and losers appear, the losers will always be on their neck. And therefore, at one point in time, when do we give an opportunity to our able, qualified Kenyans who are given tasks in constitutional office to exercise their right, so that our politicians wait for the verdict and accept those verdicts and move on? That is something that is in the horizon. It might not come soon. But one thing that I always want to tell Kenyans is that traditionally and historically, we have seen every other election time. You remember Isaac Hassan, my namesake? Yes. My namesake team was cleared. Yes, and they formed a new team of Chebukati. And by then, we were saying the same thing, saying that this new team now will be clean one. But what do you mean by clean? The definition of being clean in Independent Electoral Commission is something that we need to redefine, because if we don't get the best out of you, we condemn you.
Yes.
So basically,
and we're going to be looking at that. It's a good thing that you pointed out. Exactly. We've never had a bad commission. It's just that we have bad people outside, because we cannot say that all the commissioners, starting from Kivui to all of them, have been bad. And Mheshimiwa, I would like you also to weigh in on that issue, and because Azimio have said that the selection panel is not well constituted. Do we run a risk of having commissioners and the chairman who the opposition will always be complaining about. We're talking about the IEBC. And it's a good thing that, Doc, you've mentioned that we've never had a bad IEBC. It's just that we seem to politicize each and every time, because we wanted Kivuito out. We wanted Isaac Hassan, your namesake, out. We also wanted Chebukati out. And I believe Chebukati is the one who had the thickest skin because he's the first chairman to actually complete his term, right? He's the first chairman to complete his term. And we started out before even the post-election. We wanted Kivuito to go. But now we have an opportunity to have a commission that is well balanced. And Mheshimiwa, looking at what we've witnessed is that Azimio leader has said that the selection panel is not quite what it should be, raising doubt already before even we have started the process. And this may trickle down to a little bit after we've had the chairman and the commission. Somebody may raise an issue saying, but we remember before then the president did ABCD when it comes to the we wanted ABCD, this is our part, we wanted this and this and this. That might crop up later.
I think I want to agree with Dr. what he said. The challenge we're having, we have never had a bad IABC, but the only problem, we have bad politicians who don't want to accept realities. And not all politicians are bad. To me, I want to say we are having a bad Azimio leader who will never accept results. The only way to accept results is when either he'll bring his child or he'll bring his daughter to be the chairman. That's the only time we'll accept results. For example, now I want to cite an example of the current situation we're having. We did an election, that was August last year. Everybody accepted the results. Those ones who never accepted went to court. I want to pick an example of a presidential results. Azimio went to court. Court ruled against. We went to Kasarani for inauguration. We have a president. 6 months down the track, 6 months down the track now, is the time Azimio leader is telling us, now he demands a server to be opened. Who's now bad? The only problem, let me tell you, is Raila Amolo Odinga. If we will accept to change the perception of his thinking, that this country is going to be a good country. If you see, in every election, we don't have one presidential aspirant. We have several of them. But only one will always say, this IBC is bad, these results stolen. Only one. The rest are accept and go. What am I trying to communicate? It's high time, number one, rather to accept that it's old. To accept that this politics is for others also. Mold somebody to come and overtake him. But every now and again, if you cannot rule for or in favor of Raila, he will never settle. He will be having reasons of doing A, B, C, D. He will go to campaign rallies because our constitution has freedom of choice, freedom of speech. He will use our constitution to move around, and what he's doing currently is not right. This country needs a stable environment. We are struggling, let me tell you. We should need an environment, an enabling environment for investors to come and invest Kenya, for him to get fuel. Remember, the other time I was saying somebody is accusing this government, down the track, the vehicle is using is being fueled by the government. The bodyguard is having is being paid the same government, but you're accusing the government. That means now IBC has no problem. Let anybody be there. They do the right thing. As politicians, accept the verdict of the IBC commissioners who are in place. For example, now the ones now who are retiring. You see very well the Cherera 4. I usually call them the Cherera 4. They were nominated now. I remember in August during results announcing, everything went smoothly in Bomas of Kenya. Every commissioner was announcing results as they were channeled to the Bomas of Kenya. Immediately, presidential result was about to be announced. That's the time we knew that this IBC is divided into two portions. Why? Their political bosses are saying now, you can't accept, we are not going to be announced. That means we should change as politicians, be right people. No, this is our country. If we lose honorably. All right.
And I would like to pick your mind, Wakili, what remedies she has, because she has all the indications point that she will be appealing at the Supreme Court. And this is the first time that Mheshimiwa is talking about we've never had a bad IEBC. We only have an issue with the former premier, that is Raila Amolo Odinga, who he says and insists that unless he wins, then the IEBC is bad. And he says unless maybe a family member who is at the IEBC, then we always have issues. But all said and done, he also has followers, and he also has Kenyans who see views the way he sees. And some will argue that we need now, this is the opportunity to have a well-constituted IEBC. And the teething problems that we are experiencing right now of Azimio leader saying that how that panel was put in place is more or less like they want to put, the government wants to put IEBC commissioners and the chairman in his pocket for future endeavors. I would like you to pick your mind on that.
What I will say, Ben, is it's not far from what Mheshimiwa said and Daktari, that the problem with Kenyans is politician. Once we can be able to sanitize our political game, then we can be able to have a clean IBC. Actually, we will have the best IBC, because these people can only be made good or bad as the politicians decide to put them. If they decide to color them black, they will be black. If they say this one now is red, they will be red. So if we as Kenyans can be able to have a sane political scene, which I don't know what we will do to get there, because they say politicians are a reflection of the people who have elected them. So it's as Kenyans to change fast. That's Kenyans to change fast and be able to elect people who are actually sane, because in this context, I wonder why we will be talking of bad IBC officials, while when they were being selected, everybody praised them. Each side of the divide contributed equally in terms of coming up with the names of the people, in terms of vetting them, in terms of ensuring. And
even the National Assembly.
Even the National Assembly. These people went through, if there is a body which goes through a lot of meticulous effort or in terms of examination and looking at their background, is you want to join the IBC. So this is the most, as Daktari put it, that this is the most looked or investigated people, and they're the best of Kenyans. At that point, they are picked from the best of the crew which represents the Kenyan people who applied. So we have no reason to believe that these people are bad. It's only that the politicians do come in, and then their whims, of course, take the day. If we can be able to do away with that, or we can be able to find a way of moderating the politician, then we can be able to, because politicians, nobody moderates them. If they want to increase their salary, they will increase it. Like, nobody should question.
Mheshimiwa is quiet there.
Yes, if SRC,
no, that's wrong.
If SRC points a finger at them, they summon SRC and tell them, come with your records here tomorrow. We are going to, we are starting to kick you out of office. You know, that's how unruly, that's how our politicians are in terms of conducting their affairs, Kenya, and that is very wrong. If we can be able to have politicians who are sober, who are articulate, politicians who are actually have the best interest of Kenyans, we can be a very good country.
Yes, and still on Masit, what remedies does she has?
Yeah, on Masit, she has a right to go and appeal the decision because that's for the tribunal, and the tribunal is considered as a subordinate court. So she has a right to go to a higher court and appeal a decision.
Well, a higher court, we're talking about the High Court or the Apex Court direct?
I think normally she can go to the, I think being an election issue, she will go to the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court now is the one which deals, because she was at the crown of the election. Once she goes to the Supreme Court, she will be able to present her case there, so that it's looked at wholesomely. I don't know where she was coming from, but she tended to believe that she was clean, she didn't have any problem. But now the tribunal has since found her guilty on all the grounds, so that now the ball is in our court to actually decide which way to go, or to just rest, or decide to go and still seek further. There could be, the tribunal could have erred in one way or another, given that it's a political process also. So there could be some, I mean, she will take guidance from a legal counsel and be able to see whether she can be able to proceed, and because the Constitution still allows a right to appeal to the very end of it.
Just a quick one, because Mheshimiwa, I remember the majority leader, you're an UDA MP, and I remember your majority leader said that the honorable thing these commissioners should do is just to resign, and we saw some resigned, and Irene Masit stood her ground and said that she want to go all the way. Her goose was already cooked. Is it fair to say that, Mheshimiwa?
No, remember the reason why the majority was saying that is that the four categorically stood loud that they are for the Azimio side. Categorically, actually. The four. Remember, we had 7 of them, eh?
Yes. We had
out of 7, the 4 categorically, the entire world. So these people, they have one side. That was the problem.
Okay, that's putting words in their mouth, but maybe they showed that they had, but they just gave their honest opinion, which happened to favor one side. Is that right?
Remember, their honest opinion came at the 11th now.
In this case, honest is relative.
You have said that her goose was not already cooked.
No, to me, it was not cooked. It's just genuine, clear, and categorical that they should go home.
Again, they are seeking an opinion from a politician.
Let me help Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
I think a politician can say anything.
Yes.
And anyone who is against that politician, I mean, they will always condemn the person. And that has been a habit and practice of all politicians. The only justice she has got is at the tribunal, because she has been heard. And she had clearly indicated everything that she thought was right from her side. And a decision that has been made must have been based on definitely what they have found from her submission. And therefore, I think whatever the politicians always say does not count in such a situation, and that's why it was relevant to have a tribunal to listen to them, so that they are given a fair hearing. But there are 2 things I want to talk about in terms of Mheshimiwa Raila and the current issues he's raising. You know, the best thing for Mheshimiwa Raila at this point is that we must respect first the calendar of electioneering and campaigns. We only had 3 months to campaign. Those 3 months were gone long ago, immediately after elections was completed. Now, the only option you have is there is no option for another campaign like they're doing now, demonstrations and these other things. The options they have is that he's an elder, very experienced person in politics. He has played a very great role in this country. Let him not destroy his reputation. He is exiting politics. Let him exit in a very honorable way. How does he supposed to do? Let him go back to boardrooms. Let him go to institutions of higher learning. Talk about things that can change this country for the betterment of the citizen. And the only thing that he can come up with is if he tells us about his experience, his book, and tell us that in this country, based on my experience, if this and this is done, we are able to see a better future for our generations to come. But every time on the street, I think he is becoming a heckler, and we are trying to lose a lot of patience in terms of the respect we had for him. We still respect him as an elder, but I think we wanted to respect him also based on being a Kenyan who has been a leader for long, and let him share his wisdom with Kenyans and people, and give way to people who have the energy to find the best modalities in which this country can be served. And now the fact that we have a young president, I think let him give, I mean, it's like getting stuck on, you never believe that your child who has grown in your house and now became an adult, and now he's able to run his own errands and lead the world or the institutions that he is subjected to, you will not want to believe still that he can do that work and you still interfere with him. I think let Baba rest. Let Baba give us advice. Let Baba write his books and his bibliography, and we will be respecting him, and we will use those documentations for future references, and this Kenya will be far. But if Baba is on the street, and the way he has pulled again the former president on top of trucks, I think those things are not things that we expect from great leaders like them, unless they don't want to be defined as great leaders, because you can quash your greatness if you spoil the bad thing, the good thing you did, with a small bad thing that can spoil the whole great things you had before. So I think mine is just that, let him rest his horse, let him go into classrooms, let him become a man of wisdom who can give us directions in terms of experience and what we can do for this country for future generation.
Perfect.
Thank you. And I want to come to you, Mheshimiwa. Looking at the political temperatures that we have in the country, a lot of Kenyans are arguing that we are deviating from the issue that matters most, that is the drought situation and the current situation where the cost of living is quite high. Looking at some of the things that we are witnessing, the rallies themselves, now we have, as we are talking about IEBC reforms, we are talking about also the deputy president has come under fire, and actually he blamed this on media. I think it was on Saturday, on Sunday, and the deputy president has been quite vocal, there was a tiff there where the deputy president said that even Raila didn't resign, he was fired because of ABCD. I'm quite sure this is not something that is going to gel the country well. And another thing that he said, he said the government is more or less like a business. You know, where you invest, you get what you invest. This is a statesperson, the second in command. I remember on 13th of September when the president was inaugurated, he said that this will be a government for all Kenyans, all those who voted for me or all those who didn't vote for me. Then comes his second in command and says that, oh, bro, this is more or less like a business. You invest something, you get something. I would like to pick that because they are your party leaders.
No.
We are deviating from
No, okay. One thing I want to start with is about Deputy President. I want to reason in a good way that what it means that you can you harvest where you have sowed, to an extent that those people should be benefiting from the government, those people get appointments should be those who support the government, which I beg to differ, because if you see, actually, those words are not practical. If you see the structure of ministers the president did, in fact, from Kisii, we had only one minister.
Yes.
But if you go to Luo Nyanza, where he never got even 1%, he gave them one minister, 2 PSS, whereby in Kisii...
But Mheshimiwa,
let me explain.
Not going to look at this.
I'm giving you a simple example.
Yes.
I'm giving a simple example. I'm trying to tell you that our president is not in the mind of the vice president. No. The vice president is giving out some remarks, which of course are not good for the people of Kenya, but he's trying to communicate something. But let me tell you, one thing I should also tell Kenyans. I wonder how Raila is thinking. Because if he truly loves this country, he should look for other means of solving problems with the president. But telling people, come, we go to Mandamano. You saw other time,
has even said that there will be, he will lead protests to the State House.
Yeah, look at that statement. And critically, in a normal way, think of how this guy is thinking. He doesn't love his country. He doesn't love even those people who want to take them to State House. We are suffering. And he critically understands the problem of this government because he was part and parcel of the former government. But because they lost, and they lost honorably, both on the ballot paper and the Supreme Court, now they are trying to figure out how can we continue troubling this government for the people to see that it's not a performing government. Let me ask you, before we go to election, the fuel was 140 something. Unga was 250, 240. As we speak now, 6 months down the track, our fuel is 177.
Actually, it's still the highest.
No, but it's in a decreasing graph.
It hasn't reduced anything yet.
Our unga is now 190. Are you seeing the point? Yes. What does it tell you? This government is trying the level best to amend the messes caused by the former government. I want to agree with Dr. If this is the time you see the president, Honorable he has stayed for 10 good years. He has governed this country for 10 good years. Amekaa juu ya magari for 10 good years campaigning. You find after again he should go sit down and advise the current president how to lead. Is now in the opposition side. It's so sad anyway. But now that's where we are. That's where we are.
Wakili, people are talking about we are deviating from the issues that affect Kenyans, and that is why there's so much politicking that is going around. And Mheshimiwa and his government and his officials, they're talking about every time about what the other government did. You see? They are not alive to the fact that it's more or less if you look at that government keenly, is more or less a quarter or half of the government that was already in place, because starting with the president himself, he was part and parcel of this government. Yes. But each and every time that we hear ministers, we hear even the deputy president say or talk, he's always saying that we are looking at what this government did before, we are correcting the wrongs so that we may be able to focus on development. But Kenyans want issues, instant coffee.
Yes, the Kenyans want issues to be looked at, and I would want to agree with you. And I think I would want to disagree with Mheshimiwa because, I mean, we cannot, of course, forgive him because he's from the government side. Yeah. He has to defend it, which he's trying to do vigorously. But look at the real issues. I have a friend of mine, he stays in Ngong. He has around 80 cows. The whole of last week I've been trying to reach him. I couldn't reach him till Sunday because he told me he had moved with his cows all the way to Suswa. You know, from between Ngong and Suswa is quite something to do with 50, 60, if not 100 kilometers to go and feed his cows and then the process back because there's no grass. Kenya is an agricultural country. As long as we have cows dying, the wealth of Kenyans or the money, disposable income of Kenyans goes down. So if we're not going to look at this issue, once there's no rain, we cannot be able to harvest. The kind of debates we are having are actually, I'm even saddened that the budget for water and irrigation has been slashed down. Instead of increasing it so that we can have enough boreholes, we can have enough dams, we can have enough irrigation happening in the country so that Kenyans can feed, because it's now apparent that we cannot rely on rain-fed agriculture. So, and this is what comprises 90% of the Kenyan economy. So we are busy losing our economy, but politicians are busy politicking. Like it's yesterday's politics which is going on when we had the elections. So we are losing track. We are not. We are losing touch with the reality of Kenyans, and that is very sad. In Wajir already, they have been, the people from the northern region have been asking the government declare this a national disaster so that all effort is directed towards helping the people. But that has not happened. I wonder what they're waiting for. They want some more people to die. So these are the real issues we should be looking at the moment and be able to ensure that our people are well fed. The issue of junior secondary is already something which I think I even had teachers complain that, you know, we don't know what is going on. Teachers are complaining that they don't know what is going on in school. So these are some of the issues which the Jubilee government was elected, not to come and start engaging with Raila in a tug of war, because Raila is a politician who will always do what he wants to do. He wants to reclaim his lost glory. So he's building up his soldiers for the next war. So I don't see any problem with Raila. What they need to do is concentrate on actually doing the things which they were elected to do, and that is what they are actually trying to run away from, unless they have lost hope or given up. That's where they have started engaging in politics, but which we will tell us more. Gentlemen,
we are running out of time. I'm going to give you 30 seconds for each for your closing statements. Dr.
I tend to think that irrational way of reasoning will not going to save this country. And the only thing that I am going to tell the government, our president, our deputy president, I think their focus shouldn't be on replying people who are busybodies. People who have no directions and have no heart at this nation. The only thing that we will wish our president and his deputy and the rest of the team to do is that now it is time. Kenyans require life-saving interventions. We don't need to have mega projects at the moment until we know that the current situation is suppressed and people are able to get back to their normal life. Drought has hit across the whole country. Now life is being lost as a result of starvation. And the only thing that I'll wish is that let's channel resources in saving the life of the people of this country. And finally, Muslims are going into the month of Ramadan.
Oh, yes.
And they don't have anything to break their fast. I wish our government, well-wishers, and all Kenyans who are able to support that program. We wish, it's my wish that we start a program called Feed the Fast, so that those people who are fasting, we are able to support them during this month of holiday, this month of Ramadan.
Mheshimiwa, wrap it up.
Thank you very much. The only thing I want to tell Kenyans is that this is our country. Let's try to love ourselves and love God, but more so, let the government understand the problems of our people. And I want to agree with my colleagues that this is not the time the government should engage with the opposition. They should focus on how to solve the problems of our common mwananchi in the right way, because people are suffering outside there. Let's not focus on politics, but focus on service delivery, as we promised people during campaign. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Well said. That has been Honorable Alpha Miruka, who is the MP Bomachoge Chache. Just next to him, we have Dr. Isaac Hassan Harun, who is a governance and leadership expert. And just next to him is another expert, Gibson Gisore, who is a constitutional lawyer and also an advocate of the High Court. We were putting things into perspective. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your insight and for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for watching. Let's continue this conversation on our social media platform. But for now, I'm giving the baton to Gladys Mungai, who will be taking you through from 12 to 1 p.m. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Ben Troy Njue, and Susan Thuku is our sign language interpreter for this live show. Do have yourself a blessed afternoon. It's exactly midday.